Well, hello, my friends. This is Will from the Counterdocs. And as many of you know from the title, we are going to talk about the Mormons today. Of course, we always talk about the Mormons. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say again, I don't want to do these videos because your religion or your, well, cult is embarrassing enough on its own. Okay. But people don't give up. Okay. And in all honesty, I admire that. I admire the fact that you don't give up, but that's okay. The more you struggle, the more content you give me to make. Okay. And I'm always happy to do this. Okay. I was almost deceived by you, and consider this retribution. Okay. Um, and honestly, I'll let you guys know this. You guys are always going to lose. Okay. We are always going to win. That's just the fact. Okay. You guys will never gain an edge against us. You guys will always lose anytime you try any of these stuff. And anyways, here we go. So LJ Sourman, okay, the Mormon philosophy student, his channel, Rational Theology Podcast. I've destroyed this guy in a past exchange, or many past exchanges. And you guys can go look for the video. And he said he wanted a debate. I agreed to the debate. Guy doesn't come. Okay. And I introduced him to Jim Bob. And Jim Bob had him on, called him out on air. Okay. Well, see, you'd be getting a lot of clout from that. He didn't take it. Okay. He made a bunch of nonsense about, oh, you don't know Mormonism, but I know Orthodoxy, you know. So here's what he decided to do. He decided to come onto my channel and say that I don't know anything about Orthodox canonization process. So I asked him here kindly this to come debate because he wants to bark. And I've offered this many times, and I've posted a screenshot of him and his boyfriend Noah Airhead to come debate. They will not debate. Okay. And here's what he said. I'm sorry, I don't deal with people who are insane. So I don't understand why then you are stalking and commenting on insane people's pages. Okay. That's absolutely hilarious. But anyways, again, any of you Mormons who wants to debate, leave me a message, and I will always be happy to have you on. Always, any day. I will literally drive home, open up my Zoom, and you're free to come in. Got it? But we know you won't. Now, today, we are going to talk about the victimhood mentality of Mormons. We're going to debunk the Mormon victimhood lies. Okay, because you'll always hear that, oh, you know what, in Missouri it was legal to kill Mormons. So actually, that's not true. So there was an Executive Order 44, which was extermination of Mormons. But what the governor said is that he doesn't want violent means. He said violent means to remove Mormons is legal. He did not say you can kill individual Mormons. He said that you guys have to leave. If you don't leave, we can make you leave violently. Okay? Now, let's talk, but we're going to go into more of what the Mormons have done in the past. And as we go through this, you will see that really all the stuff that happens to them, they really deserved it. Now, first, we're going to talk about Joseph Smith's clap, how he was clapped. Okay. And we've talked about this in the past, but this is the beginning of Mormonism. So we're going to go back on it. So Joseph Smith's polygamy was exposed by the Nauvoo Expositor, okay, which is a Nauvoo press. Then he ordered his private naval army to destroy the press, and they did that. It injured many people. Then um, people started to. Uh, he was charged with riot. Then he told his own legion, private army, to declare martial law because he was facing an warrant. And during this time, he fled to Iowa. Okay. So he left his people. He fled. He wanted to run away. But, the governor was actually quite smart. Ford, I think Governor Ford was quite smart, and he was able to convince these people to lay down their arms. At that time, the Mormons kind of already lost hope in him because, why would you run if you're a prophet, right? So he ran, and then he was charged with treason against the state. Of course, you're going to get charged treason against the state. You violated freedom of press. You burned down people's property because they say bad things about you. Okay? And you declare martial law with your personal army. So that is called treason. Okay? He instructed, and while he was arrested, which he had to surrender, by the way, he instructed the Legion commander, Jonathan Dunham, to stage a jailbreak. And obviously, Jonathan is not stupid. This guy already left us one time. I'm not going to help you jailbreak. So he didn't follow the order. But there was a mob, most likely, the the other mob, the opposing gang, and they decided to go into the jail and shot Joseph Smith. And no, he's not a martyr. A martyr doesn't flee. Okay, he fled. He tried to jump out of the window and run away, and he was shot dead. So he's not a, that's not martyrdom. Okay, martyrdom is when you hold firm in your faith and you were martyred because you will not surrender your faith. Okay, this has nothing to do with faith. This is a rival gang fight. So that is the beginning of the Mormon treason. Okay, trying to do their own thing, trying to stage mutiny. And then we have Brigham Young, who comes next. And we're going to talk about the Utah War, which Mountain Meadow Massacre was one of the little incidents that happened, in which the Mormons slaughtered over 100 people. Well, actually, might have been more than that. So today we're going to read together the proclamation of April 6, 1858, and this is President Henry Buchanan's decree on the Mormons. And we're going to investigate if the Mormons are wrongfully persecuted, like Brigham Young lied to his people, or were there actual reasons, okay, why there was an order to seize Utah. Let's begin. Whereas the territory of Utah was settled by certain immigrants from the states and from foreign countries who have for several years past manifested a spirit of insubordination to the Constitution and laws of the United States. Okay, so immediately, this is not about religion. This is about the breaking of the laws. The great mass of those settlers acting under the influence of leaders to whom they seem to have surrendered their judgment, okay, which is the same thing as today, Mormons with their cult leader prophets, refuse to be controlled by any other authority. They have been often advised to obedience, and these friendly counsels have been answered with defiance. The officers of federal government have been driven from the territory for no offense, but an effort to do their sworn duty. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Mormons at the time they were trying to establish Zion all over the place, their own city, okay, their own little separated nation. So they were uh, threatening and then kicking out federal officials. Others have been prevented from going there by threats of assassination. Judges have been violently interrupted in the performance of their functions, and the records of the courts have been seized and destroyed or concealed. Many other acts of unlawful violence have been perpetrated, and the right to repeat them has been openly claimed by the leading inhabitants, which at least the silent acquiescence of nearly all the others. Their hostility to the lawful government of the country has at length become so violent that no officer bearing a commission from the chief magistrate of the Union can enter the territory or remain there with safety. Okay, so the Mormons are threatening federal officers, threatening the government, starting their own state, not allowing other settlers and to pass through their territory or government power to get in. And all those officers recently appointed have been unable to go to Salt Creek or anywhere else in Utah beyond the immediate power of the Army. Okay, so they're blocking people from entering the United States territory. That is called treason, by the way. Indeed, such is believed to be the condition to which a strange system of terrorism has brought the inhabitants of the region that no one among them would express an opinion favorable to this government, or even propose to obey its laws, without exposing his life and property to peril. And this is the tactic of Brigham Young to Mormons, which he lied, saying that uh, the federal government are lawless. They have no, that they're of the devil and they're trying to seize our properties. Okay, these are the lies that Brigham Young used to intimidate his followers. After carefully considering this state of affairs and maturely weighing the obligation, I was under to see the law faithfully executed. It seemed to me right and proper that I should make such use of the military force at my disposal as might be necessary to protect the federal officers in going into territory of Utah and in performing their duties after arriving there. I accordingly ordered a detachment of the army to march for the city of Salt Lake, or within reach of that place, and to act in case of need as a pause for the enforcement of the laws. But in the meantime, the hatred of what misguided people for the just and legal authority of the government had become so intense that they resolved to measure their military strength with that of the Union. They have organized an armed force far from contemptible in point of numbers and trained it, if not with skill, at least with great assiduity and perseverance. While the troops of the United States were on their march, a train of baggage wagons, which happened to be unprotected, was attacked and destroyed by a portion of the Mormon forces, and provisions and stores with which the train was laden were wantonly burnt. In short, their present attitude is one of decided and unreserved enmity to the United States and to all their royal citizens. Their determination to oppose the authority of the government by military force was not only being expressed in words, but manifested in overt acts of most unequivocal character. So, what happened? The Mormons wants to start their own country, and which is staging a mutiny against the government. Okay, the government sent a small portion of the army to escort federal officials from entering territories of Utah, in which the Mormons went on the attack, guerrilla warfare against the federal government. So that's called treason and mutiny. Do not deceive yourself nor try to mislead others by propagating the idea that this is a crusade against your religion. The Constitution and laws of this country can take no notice of your creed, whether it be true or false. This is a question between your God and yourselves, in which I disclaim all right to interfere. Immediately, we know that it has nothing to do with faith. It's not a persecution of your faith. Okay? If you obey the laws, keep the peace, and respect the just rights of others, you will be perfectly secure. See, all the president is asking for is that, hey, we don't persecute religion. It's got nothing to do with your religion, which Brigham Young and the Mormons today twisted and whitewashed it to be religious persecution. We just want you to follow the law and may live on in your present faith or change it for another at your pleasure. Every intelligent man among you knows very well that this government has never directly or indirectly sought to molest you in your worship, to control you in your ecclesiastical affairs, or even to influence you in your religious opinions. Nothing about religion. This rebellion is not merely a violation of your legal duty, it is without just cause, without reason, without excuse. You never made a complaint that was not listened to with patience. You never exhibited a real grievance that was not redressed as promptly as it could be. The laws and regulations enacted for your government by Congress have been equal and just, and their enforcement was manifestly necessary for your own welfare and happiness. You have never asked their repeal. They are similar in every material respect to the laws which have been passed for the other territories of the Union, and which everywhere else, with one partial exception, have been cheerfully obeyed. No people ever lived who were freer from unnecessary legal restraints than you. Human wisdom never devised a political system which bestowed more blessings or imposed lighter burdens than the government of the United States in its operations upon the territories. Okay, so we see a very well refined gov- president writing to the Mormons saying that there should be no just reason for your rebellion. The government has not treated you in ill ways, have never ordered the persecution of your religion. There's nothing about the religion. You guys are rebelling for your own cause without just reasons. Now, again, why am I showing you? I'm showing you guys how big of a liar these people are and how, if given the power, just like that's why we call them white Islam, they will be just as violent as Islam. Okay, maybe a little bit less because most of them are white, but here we go. But being anxious to save the infusion of blood and to avoid indiscriminate punishment of a whole people for crimes of which is not probable that all are equally guilty. You see how the president does not want blood. He does not want violence. Okay. And he doesn't want to punish all Mormons. I offer now a free and full pardon to all who will submit themselves to the just authority of the federal government. If you refuse to accept it, let the consequences fall upon your own heads. But I can conjure you to pause deliberately and reflect well before you reject this tender of peace and goodwill. Now, you could say, okay, Mormons argue, well, you see, the troops coming over, they're trying to attack us. Well, okay, we see that's not true. Okay, first of all, timeline-wise speaking, those troops were dispatched to protect federal officers that the Mormons are harming and threatening assassination. And at this point, which, point of the letter, the president is offering peace and goodwill. He has not ordered assault on Mormon settlements. Okay, just so you guys keep that in mind. Now, therefore, I, James Buchanan, President of the United States, have thought proper to issue this my proclamation, enjoining upon all public officers in the territory of Utah to be diligent and faithful, to the full extent of their power, in the execution of the laws, commanding all citizens of the United States in said territory to aid and assist the officers in the performance of their duties, offering to the inhabitants of Utah who shall submit to the laws a free pardon for the seditions and treasons theretofore by them committed. Okay, so he's willing to pardon the treasons, warning those who shall persist after notice of this proclamation in the present rebellion against the United States that they must expect no further lenity, but look to be rigorously dealt with according to their deserts, and declaring that the military forces now in Utah and hereafter to be sent there will not be withdrawn until the inhabitants of the territory shall manifest a proper sense of duty which they owe to this government. Again, this supports the previous point that there was no assault on Utah planned by President Buchanan, and he only threatened that if the Mormons refuse to submit to the law. Okay. In testimony, whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seat of the United States to be affixed to these prisons, done done at the city of Washington, the 6th day of April. Okay. Now that is the end of the proclamation. What can we see here? We see that the Mormons decided to start. their own city, staged a mutiny against the United States of America, massacring people, threatening federal officials, being absolutely savages and mongrels, attacking federal and authority at innocent people, massacring people, disobeying the law, ordering their troops to attack federal authorities and federal troops. That is mutiny, that's treason. And when the president offered leniency, they told the president to go fly a kite. And they continued with their disobedience to the government. And obviously, those of you know, the war ended in their encirclement and their surrender. Okay, so yeah, again, we went through this. Brigham Young's response to the government was to declare martial law with his private army. Again, what Joseph Smith did. Order the Mormons to go to guerrilla warfare against federal troops and officers, causing mass destruction. He lies to the Mormons that they're facing invasion, which is not true, and they went on the offensive. Okay. It was not the federal government attacking Mormons, it was the Mormons who decided to attack the federal government. And obviously, this whole thing ended with them having to concede the authority back to the federal government. And this also resulted in the LDS Church eventually being ordered to stop polygamy. Okay. So, what do we know? Like I said, okay, these are not innocent people. Now, Mormons are taught this that, oh, we're being persecuted everywhere. No, it's because everywhere you go, you try to do your fake Zion bullshit and you get kicked out. Okay. And you practice disgusting things like polygamy. People don't want that. Okay. You try to push your faith onto others. You try to start this tribalism. You try to incite treason and mutiny within the United States. That's why you guys were slapped around. It's not because, you know, everybody just hates the Mormons. Well, you see, even in your tritheist, polytheistic crap beliefs, people didn't persecute you for that. But you decided to persecute other people. Who told you to murder people who comes on your land? And I'm sure, I mean, the Old Testament is clear as to the Jews when God told the Jews to take in the strangers, make them one of your own, and treat them as one of your own. And I know the Mormons are obsessed with Old Testament priesthood. So why didn't you do that? Why did you decide to kill people instead of convert them into your faith and treat them as one of your own? Why would you not do that? Oh, instead, you want to start your own cult because it's a cult. Okay, that's why. It's a cult. Blood atonement, polygamy. You know that nobody in the right mind is going to submit to this madness. That's why they have to be kept out or today brainwashed. Well, by the way, the Mormonism back then is drastically different than the Mormonism today, and the beliefs are almost completely 180 different. That's all I have for you folks. Okay. Next week, what do we have next week? Next week, we have a video I did on the Western Rite, which was supposed to be posted this week, but instead, the Mormons wanted to bark, so I had to make a response. Anyways, God bless. You guys have a lovely Wednesday.